Yo, welcome into the BeBall Jones podcast. The goal of this podcast in my business is to bridge the gap, to fuel hoop dreams, and to impactful realities on the court and beyond. So thank you for tuning in. Hope you enjoy it. Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode, and I have a return guest, you guys. It's Vanessa Brooks. She is back again, and you guys enjoyed her so much, and she begged me to come on. I'm like, oh, relax, okay, guys, like. She's going, okay, okay, all right. So I let her come back on for part two. Okay, I'm joking. I begged her to come back on. Let me tell the truth. I begged her to come back on. But now, what's going on, Vanessa? Everything good?
Yeah, we are in the full swing of preseason. So as you anybody can imagine, it's a little busy, physicals, cardiac testing, all that fun stuff. So yeah.
So yeah, like you just kind of alluded to, if people didn't catch the first one. You are a part of the NBA, like the big industry of the NBA. And you have a little bit of history behind you, correct? And can you share that with the people?
We share that with the people. I
Yeah.
want to thank God that I became the 2019 in that 2019 2020 became the first black female physical therapist athletic trainer in the entire NBA. I thought that was interesting that I didn't know. That was crazy because 2019 wasn't that long ago. But yeah, I'm very grateful. And the great thing is now I'm not the only one, or even right after that was not the only one. So it was great. It's great to see.
I know that's been like an amazing experience for you. So like, what was it like when you first got like, hey, you're part of the NBA now? What that first feeling? What that first emotion that came to you?
uh I would say my husband was very excited for me. I was very excited really because I think we talked about in the previous podcast how I initially told some schools that I was attending for residency fellowship, um, even some jobs like that I was like, I want to work in the NBA. I want to work. And of course, they were just like, NCAA, like WNBA. And there's nothing against NCAA or WNBA. It's just that my goal, and I stated, was NBA. And my husband believed me. He supported me along the entire way. And of course, when that happened, it was just like, Lord, thank you. Like, because I was like, you placed that desire in my heart, you opened the door, you put belief and faith, and I acted upon it. And I had a supportive husband as well, no matter all the naysayers. And then I was just like, God opened the door. So just very grateful.
That's it. You just like
No,
gratitude.
seriously, I was just like, I literally was like very grateful. I was like, wow, like I wasn't that crazy. Like, thank you. Because to why I think it's funny because when now that you said it, or now that you accomplished it, those that doubted you are like, oh, I know her. Oh, she was in this program. Oh, I taught her. And it's just like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm the same person. Like, I haven't changed. Like,
Mhm.
I just stated what I wanted, and you just said I was crazy. So it's just like, okay, like at the end of the day, it's just like let your action show for it and let God open that door. You do your work, have your faith, and you keep pushing. Faith with works, and just let God move mountains, and your faith shall just open doors in Christ. Like I'm just whoo. So it was just a good testimony. It was just like an awesome testimony. That's how I see it.
I'm kind of surprised. Well, I'll say you better than me because first I would have been like, grateful. I would have had that, and then at some point, the following emotion would have been like, I remember the people that said I couldn't do it. All the that would have been like I'm petty, so I would have been like, I remember you. You said I couldn't do it, and probably would have thought of a way to like show you that I did it in spite of you saying I couldn't do it. And then third would have been like, all right, let's prep for what's next. I probably wouldn't even act on the pettiness. I would have just had like my trigger reaction would have been like, yeah, I remember that. I got you.
I
Put my
think,
note
yeah. So I mean, that's so natural, but that's so natural. So it was to me, it was just like, okay, I'm not saying I'm Joseph in the Bible, and for those who don't believe in the Bible, skip forward. But Joseph the Bible How was like, his brothers laughed at him. You gonna do what? What are you talking about? X, Y, Z. And when Joseph was raised, obviously he went through what he went through, raised to the top to being basically the head honcho. Not saying I'm the head honcho, but saying he became the head honcho. It was just like he didn't say, "Oh, look at me, bow down." It's like when his family came in need to him, they didn't even know who he was at first. It wasn't like, "Oh, remember when you said I couldn't make it? When you said when
Yeah.
you sold me to slavery, remember when?" So it's like it was something that I've always asked the Lord to work on my heart, and I continue to do so. In like, because this is just one scenario, but there are multiple scenarios, multiple things God has done in my life that others have said, like, sure, whatever you say, if that's what you think. And even till this day, like, it doesn't have to be anything big, but just something that's like, you know what? God will have things come to light to show his glory. He will raise you up to show his glory, not for me, but for him. And it's just like, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, when things turn around where you have the upper hand, you could get in your own pride, but it's just like, why? Because at the end of the day, like, it rains on the just and unjust. Like, God's gonna work it out for you no matter what it is. So you just make sure you stay humble. And I think it's just like it's a daily walk. It's a daily walk.
Yeah, I'm always balancing that because I do have a level of competitive edge to just prove people wrong. And so sometimes it doesn't work out my best because then it's like the pride starts puffing out. It's like, yeah, it feels good to prove you wrong. But I try not to tap in that too much. That's not the fuel source I want to pull from all the time. So that's why you're a better one than me, So and I probably hang around you more, and that can rub off on me.
Nah, it's our own walk. Like, I ain't gonna lie, like, it's definitely a walk because I know there's stuff I need to work on. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at even that scenario, but I just think we all know our own things that we got to work on. And yeah, surround yourself. Yeah, iron sharpens iron, and I would say, like, where I'm right now, it's a constant iron sharpens iron in a way that you can't react to your surroundings. So especially in this sports industry or professional sports anyway, do not react to your surroundings. You need to stay calm, remain constant.
So I do want to get into, like you said, you were the first black woman to take this role and position. Of course, like you said, you feel gratitude, but I'm pretty sure at this point it hasn't all been, flowers and roses and rainbows. Especially like you said, being the first black woman, and you're probably one of few, the minority of women in the men's world, men's industry. What is your thoughts kind of like handling that situation?
I mean, I think the schooling and the people I was around prepared me for not all the moments, but a lot of moments. So, for example, um, excuse me. For example, like me doing residency and fellowship, my residency, that in itself, I went to Duke for my residency. Those who know about Chapel, it's not Chapel Hill, but Durham, Chapel Hill, that rivalry and all that stuff. But the sports residency in general, I was the only black person, the first ever black person for their sports residency. And that was 2017. So that was already preparation. In the entire clinic, there were over 32, 34 physical therapists. I was the only black female, not first, but only black female working. Everyone else, if they were black, they were patients. And then we had a black male as a physical therapist as well. He was the only black person the entire time until I became a resident. And when I left the residency, there was not another black person until maybe 3 years later. So, and that was a resident or a fellow. That wasn't even like they worked there full time. So that in itself there were some interactions. And I think Durham, I'm not from North Carolina. That was my first time living in North Carolina. Other than that, I just visited Charlotte. So that in itself was just very interesting to prepare to, like, not just being female, but being black, and then the stereotypes of that. And then it's like fellowship. Okay, yes, I was the first and only black female. Then it went to on the medical staff, there was no other black person. Like athletic trainers. So we go through athletic trainers, I'm going through chiropractors, I'm going through the massage therapists, the DOs, the physicians, nutritionists. Like I went through a lot of professions already listing, and I didn't see a black person. So it's not trying to say it's a black white thing. It's just on the standpoint of like God was preparing me. That's something you just have to like. I had to see that at the time. I wasn't seeing it, and I'm not saying like when I was doing my fellowship, I don't feel like I was treated differently because of that. So in that sense, but there were some underlying things of like, oh, don't you guys da da da. I was like, you guys. But it's not like everybody said that, but it was good to experience it because it just had it that dialogue could happen. I think that was the biggest thing. The dialogue could happen. So then it prepared me. So then, okay, where I am here, Oklahoma. I never knew Oklahoma, never visited, don't know anything about it, and there's not that many black professionals. It's growing, but compared to when I first got here, 2019, the incarceration rate is still high amongst blacks, females and males alike. If you have met, I forgot what the stat is, but long story short, the average, it's a high percentage of blacks that are either incarcerated, just came out of incarceration. Like, unfortunately, that's just what it is. So it's a lot of your interactions with people in general, whether it's in the public or just in general, like it's a lot of like it's a lot of you just being yourself, and it's gonna be on the person to see you as a person and not your color at the end of the day. And then you being a female, and it's not all black females are angry. Um like you could be assertive, it's not you being aggressive. Yes, the list can go on and on. So at the end of the day, like I just feel like it prepared, whether me going to Whole Foods, me going to Orange Theory, or going anywhere, like or we travel because it's not even just Oklahoma. We could travel. We can go to Denver. We can go to different places, and it's just like okay. And then you see those people that actually interact with you, and it's just like okay, see you as who you are as a person. So anyway, got off on a tangent because it's interesting.
It is because usually you don't hear the full story or the full side of it. You just kind of know of incidents. And if you do hear, especially like in your arena of the NBA, it's always like the player complaining about a fan doing X, Y, and Z. But we, as fans and spectators, we don't realize that it's a whole team and whole organization that can deal with those same issues. Like just because the players have the camera on them doesn't mean that the coaches are dealing with it too, or the trainers aren't dealing with it,
So
or
true.
anything else, like or anyone else in the organization doesn't deal. Because Utah isn't like just gonna give that to Westbrook or just LeBron or whoever, whatever players on the court. It's like all of you can get that energy, and so that's why I'm so interested in this conversation from that perspective because especially with you being a woman dealing with that, we don't hear about that point of view as well. And so, how have you been able to manage that? I know you said you had the grooming and everything, but like you didn't always have the grooming. So we'll take you back to when you first kind of got exposed to it, and you were like, okay, this is not what I'm used to. I didn't sign up for this. Like, what was that like when you first got exposed to it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just I think the one shocking story that I think I first experienced, I won't say the city or state to make sure I don't throw anybody out there. Um, it was actually the opposite. It wasn't like name calling and stuff. It was more of like this gentleman, when you can have courtside seats, your seat can be literally next to the bench. And my seat is the first seat on the bench. And so this guy basically sitting next to me, I got my what we call kit, sideline kit, AEDs behind my chair, and it's just coaches next to me. And then the fan could sit like the next seat over. And I'll never forget this man was trying like, you know, do you like this job? I can hire you. Do you got a man? It was just like He just kept going the whole game. Like I was just like, bruh, had this huge cowboy hat, cowboy boots on, and I was just like, bruh, please, like, stop talking to me. Like, so how long you been doing this? Like, I tell you, like, it was crazy to the point where the game was over and I was trying to grab my stuff and go, and he like somehow he slipped his business card. He was like, if you ever change your mind, if you don't want to work here anymore. So it was like that's not what I was expecting because of course you hear stories, you see it online, you're expecting like the name calling, like people doing stuff, but it's like I didn't get that, which is very interesting. It was that those type of scenarios. I think it's more of the underlying subliminal things that can happen. You can some people may call it at the workplace, some people may say it's wherever. Um, and that's just like how you respond to things or when you have a straight face and you don't give a reaction, the assumption is like, oh, something's gonna happen. Oh, we're waiting for her to react, and it's just like, I'm not gonna give you that reaction. And it doesn't matter where you are, because that could be anywhere. I could be you could be at the grocery store in line and somebody does something. You have the choice if you're gonna react or not. So I think it was more of the I don't want to say I'm reprogramming other people. It's just more of like you have to have a self-awareness about yourself first off, and you have to understand how people perceive you and their perception is reality, but you have to understand like you can't let that influence you because it's like I'm not that angry black woman. Yes, I'm a passionate person. I am loud and very excited, so people know like I'm a very energetic person. But it doesn't mean I'm gonna give you that energy or match your energy. And I think that's like the biggest thing in general is just like, mm, I could match it. I could. But what does that do? It just confirms your bias. And that confirmation bias, that's what you're wanting. What you see on TV, you expect that to come out. Whether it's like things get tough or it's 3 in the morning, we landed somewhere else. We have to grab our items, grab bags off the bus. We have to get off, deplane or whatever. People are tired. You just expect this is what's going to happen. And so I think you just staying true to yourself, people see over time like, huh. And I've had people say, oh, you're different. And I'm just like, I'm just Vanessa. Like, it doesn't mean like everybody acts like this, and it doesn't mean everybody that looks like me is like this. We all have different upbringings, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just been, I would say it's been very interesting, but also um I'm glad like we have a diverse staff. We may not have a diverse like medical staff, medical performance staff, but see like on the coaches side and different what we call pillars or organizations within our organization, there is a lot of diversity and so like people from all over. So that's been like really fun. Because you may have biases yourself. You're like, oh, they're from this country, so they might think as a black female, you're aggressive to them. And it's like, no, that's my assumption of them, of how they perceive me. You have to check yourself too. And you realize like just getting to know people as people and not like their culture, their ethnicity, or any of these things, like you break down these walls and you instead of getting out of your comfort zone, you expand your comfort zone. And I think one thing that even the previous season and then this season, as a reminder, our general manager talks about expanding your comfort zone. And I think that's something that is awesome because if you get out of your comfort zone, you can hop back in if you want to. But if you expand it, it's like things are that growth happens and it's a maturity that happens. And it's not just like, oh, I'm gonna go back into my shell. So it's something that I like. It's a continued daily, as I said earlier, daily walk.
Yeah, I kind of had a similar experience. Well, not similar, but just the awareness of the perception and the lack of full awareness. Just not just I say being ignorant, just being ignorant of the culture and of more people. And um, it was at the old job he used to have, and I had a conversation with the guy. He was Caucasian, male, white male, and he was just like a perspective shift for him It's just a conversation about why. Okay, why are you guys angry about this, and why do you feel the way about that? Why is this an issue? I'm just like, you're lucky it's me, because another black person would have took offense to this stuff and
That's true.
not handled the right way. But like, okay, you just don't know, and you truly want to know. All right, cool, we can have the conversation. And so I have to be mindful of that in all situations because even if you were trying to antagonize me, that could still end bad for me if I react the way you want me. Because, like you said, I'm feeding into whatever your perception is, and it kind of sucks that we do have to be cognizant of that. And sometimes, like you said, we're over cognizant of that, or we're over mindful of that, to where I'm already 3 steps ahead, and I'm reflecting against what your assumption is, but I'm assuming that you're
Yes.
assuming me, so I'm
Yes.
already acting on that assumption that you don't even have of me, but I'm assuming you had that of me.
Exactly. No, that's exactly right. Because you're like, oh, okay. They think because I'm a black female, I've already made history. Like all I'm gonna do now is just post on social media. I'm the first this. I'm the first this. All I'm gonna do is just be about me, me, me. Or it's just like you think, um, just like you walk into a conversation, you're already assuming that there's going to be a conflict, and that's just in general. Like, doesn't it's not about color, but it's just like the fact of like in your situation, and I know a lot of people listening have a similar scenario where there's someone that asks them a question, but if you try to take like a seat back and hear from their perspective, they're just inquisitive, they're ignorant because they don't know. But the
Yeah,
fact that they felt brave enough to ask you, and then that God was able to use you to educate them, that's like the biggest thing. Because that's where some people act out of anger, like, oh, why, how dare them, take a knee during the national anthem. They don't have a clue what it's about. They don't know. Some of them don't even care to know. They don't even know what's going on. But the fact of like that one person that asks, hey, why do you take a knee, or why do you not come out during the national anthem? There are still players to this day that don't come out to the national anthem, come out onto the court. And it's not saying any disrespect to those who've lost their lives, who serve for our country, because we have those who have lost their lives, serve our country, that look like you and me, who are proud Americans, and we're very grateful to have this freedom. It's more to make a statement and a declaration of all the lives that have been taken unlawfully because of the color of their skin. And that could be whether you want to call that from law enforcement or whatever it is. And we don't need to get down that whole uh that whole thing, but just understanding like it could take that one person ask, so why do you guys do that? And unfortunately, and when you hear the phrase "you guys," of course you're like, wait, what do you mean you
yeah,
guys? But you have to like take a step back. And my prayer is like, and I know I said this out loud to my staff, like I pray when I am driving to work, because I want to get my mindset right, because I don't want to be in the assumption mode. I ask the Lord, like, help me to have your lens that I could see people as you see them. And I'm not saying I got to see them as broken or anything like that, but a lot of times, just like your scenarios, like they are just like, man, if I was comfortable, I would like to ask this question. Like some people, like some of the questions I'll even get, like when I say go to the hospital to like take somebody for a physical, is that your hair? Or it's like, your hair could be curly or your hair could be straight. You could braid your hair. Like it's just all, that's just so simple, but it's not saying out of disrespect. It's just like curiosity. Cause like, guess what? They didn't grow up around it. If they didn't, they didn't know, they just like that one day you've been nice and like say good morning, all of it may start a conversation. So at the end of the day, it's been good to take the time to be human and understand where people are coming from, because I think coming to Oklahoma, as I said already, was a huge culture shock. I thought North Carolina was a culture shock, this was a culture shock. And getting to be around people that don't look like me, well, a lot of people that don't look like me, it's been interesting to have like just random conversations of like, yeah, like I am educated, I do work in the professional sports setting, I'm not just a super fan. You'd be surprised. I wear my work clothes, oh my gosh, you're such a super fan. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a huge super fan. I'm like, bro, I work here, like I can actually work here. But that's just the perception. And so it's like you have to break down those barriers, just like we shatter glasses every time you make history, every time you show up to work, every time you um just be yourself, and it's not the norm of what people see on TV as a black person or a black female. You're continuing to breaking ceilings, you're continuing to shine your light, and have to know, and also that that light is going to piss some people off who like the darkness, but you have to continue to shine your light because it's not your job to dim your light. You continue to be yourself, and it will continue to guide and lead the way.
Ooh, let's pivot a little bit because that can go a whole nother direction.
Oh, for
Um,
sure, for sure.
yeah, let's go back to the cowboy guy because I am interested about that. How do you? Okay, let's go to the woman half of this. How do you deal with the dynamic of male and female in your field of situation like that? It's like, bro, I got a whole husband and you playing games right now. Like, how do you deal with that when people kind of come to you sideways and it's like, I have like a whole ring right here that shows you that I'm
Oh,
like something like that.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. I had a recent one at like NBA Summer League in Vegas, and uh that was a black guy. And he it was weird because it's like I'm wearing these rings. I'm not wearing my silicone. So to me, I mean, thank God for my husband, but it's like he hooked me up with the bling, okay? Like he hooked me up. So it's really hard to miss that. But talking to my husband, talking to my dad and stuff like that is just like I knew from early on, it's like men don't care about that because guess what? Some of them be getting married people or vice versa. So it's just like, okay. But I think more so, I'm also a very friendly person. And so, me being friendly, I'm laughing, goofing off or whatever, but that's all it is. That's all it is. I like to, we have a game. This person, not the cowboy person, but this person was just like talking, and he just started talking about his girlfriend. So I was just like, just chit chatting about it. And then he was like, said something about like, you got a cute face. And I was just like, okay, thank you. And I'm like, how did we get to this topic? And it's like during the timeout, okay? This is during, so the game is still going on. So it's just like, okay, thanks. And then he was like, oh, you're married? And I was just like, bro, I've been talking to you for how many games? Like Summer League is multiple games. It's not just like one game. You're there for forever and a day in Vegas. But I was just like, yeah. And it was just so interesting, like stuff like that. But it's like, I continue to be myself regardless. Cause I think, and then the day, like, I don't think he was trying to disrespect me in that sense. Cause maybe he didn't notice it. I don't know. But I was just like, I remain myself regardless. The other person, that was like my first year with the cowboy hat and the cowboy stuff. He was all decked out. The one that just kept bothering me, that's something that in I think after that moment, like I will talk to our like director of security and he's on it. Like I don't have to say much. He will take care of whatever he got to take care of. And that comes to any of our players, any of the like say if any fans are bothering the players to the point where it's just like too much, like we have a great staff. Like they'll take care of it. But I think um in that standpoint, like I remain myself, and there's a respect that my husband and I have for each other that he also knows, like, I'm not out here doing something. So, I mean, I know, or I can imagine um, a husband of a wife, because it's actually not common. I can tell you right now off the top of my head, I can only think of one person in the NBA right now. She's a woman and she's married. And her man doesn't like they're not checking for us to be like, you're with all these men that make all this money, da 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 da. Not worried. Because also too, my players and players in general and NBA whatever, they're not seeing me that way. And I know like trust me, I don't look like any of their girlfriends. I don't, anything like that. And also too, like they know I'm married. A lot of them will stand up for me as well in a respectful manner, which I appreciate. So say if anyone were to say something like, "Oh, you going out with who you trying to look good for," that would never happen. Anytime somebody were to say something like that, another player would be like, "What are you talking about? Vanessa's married." Like, so they know like my actions will never ever contradict to be like, "Oh, I'm married this day," and then no. I have that respect for myself and for my husband to know like if because that respect for my personal life carries over to professional. So they know like that will be the same for any staff there are in any other team as well, with whether they're staff or other team. I'm not like that. And I think that plays a huge role with the respect aspect because um now when you're asking them, okay, let's go ahead and do this movement assessment, let's do this, there's never a disrespect in that because they know again, I respect myself, I respect you as a human, I respect my husband, so you know that I care for you as like my little brother or as like a cousin or something like that. And anything I ask of you, it's all in the professional sense. And so I think you set that stage early. I'm not trying to be your friend. I may giggle and whatever, but because tough love is also with it. Or I need you to do this because this is going to help us paint a better picture for your preseason, you know, um, movement and to work with the strength coaches and da 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 da, like all that stuff. So I think as a person, you need to know yourself. You need to have that respect for yourself, and you don't even have those issues. And I know we can think of all on social media, all the different things that have popped up um, that has been within the staff that, of course, like you see it, you're just like, oh, Lord have mercy. Please let them not stop hiring females because of these scenarios. But also, too, obviously, that was a two-way street with some of those examples. But in the day, like the female, and I can only speak for myself, I respect myself that that's not my goal in life. Like I want to be so respected as a person and professionally that that will never cross anybody's mind. So yeah,
So you said you started with them in 2019. Were you married then, or you guys
I
dating?
was married. No, I was married then. Yeah. I was married. We got married 2017. So married July 1st, and 7 days later started my residency. So that was a not smart idea. I'll just say that because finances took a huge dip doing a residency. And that, no, you did not ask me for this, but that finances, that can break a marriage. Okay. Finances off the jump. And I already had debt and all that stuff because I was balling. When I tell you travel therapy makes some good money. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to go to Duke and I'm going to make decent money. And I looked at the salary. They just tell you salary. So, of course, I'm thinking, like, man, that's good. Not calculating, like, make way more money doing what I'm doing now versus me then doing this salary. And it's a percentage of the salary with residency. You never get the full amount as like a staff PT. So that was very rough. I'm not gonna lie, that was a very rough time.
Hey, hold on. Oh, time out real quick. We're gonna get back to the episode. I know you're enjoying it. I know you're enjoying the show. But I need you to help me real quick and to make sure that this episode can grow, make sure this podcast and show can grow overall, and you can keep getting great guests like this. Make sure that you subscribe and follow along. So if you watch right now on YouTube, help me out by hitting the subscribe button. Okay, go ahead and do it real quick. If you're listening in your car, chill out for a second. If you're on Apple or on Spotify, just like when you get a moment, hit the follow button, but not right now while you're driving. If you're working out or something, or you chilling in your room, then go ahead and subscribe with me. Like, help me help you, okay? But thank you for watching. I really appreciate you. I'm gonna stop interrupting so you get back to the episode. Thank you.
While you guys were dating, he knew what the goal was for
Hmm.
you. How did you guys kind of manage through it? Because we kind of talked about it last episode of the trials of like going after your goals while going after a relationship too. So how did you kind of manage, both halves of that?
I think it started from before my husband and I were even dating. Um, I in undergrad and then I graduated. I thought there was this guy that I thought we were serious, and I think when I found out he was with somebody after the fact and had a baby on the way, and I was like, "You told me you weren't with this person, then you have a baby on the way." When I tell you, obviously, like I was just like, "Wait, what?" And that's when I was like, "Okay, girl, focus on your career. Be single." And unfortunately, because I was so hurt, I was like, "Oh, I'm never gonna date ever." And I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna be one of those black. You know what? I'm okay with being black and single. Like, because if you ever think about that stat, like a lot of black females unfortunately are single. And so, of course, because I was hurt so bad, it was like, you lied to me, and all that stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. Around that time of graduation, this is when my husband at the time was we're not even dating or anything. This is actual Facebook. Yes, Facebook. I said Facebook. Was like, he messaged me. He was like, hey, how are you? I was like, fine. We had a lot of like mutual friends, but also physically mutual friends, but we've never seen each other. He was just like, oh, I'm getting my master's in Atlanta. And I see that you're now heading to Emory, doing your doctorate. And I was like, yeah. I'm thinking like, okay, what do you want? I'm like, why are you? Because I remember I'm hurt. I don't like guys. I just want to stay single. And so he was like, yeah, I'm just dating around or whatever. And of course I'm like, and literally, like, I could pull up this response to this day, and I was like, oh, okay, well, you have a good one. I'm thinking like, thank you for telling me what your motives were. And I was like, I respect that. I am not even gonna lie. I respect that 110%. He told me what he was about. He said he's dating around. And I was just like, I knew that's not what I'm going for. I'm going for long term. So fast forward 2 years later. Yes, I stayed single for 2 years. I thought I was gonna stay single for the rest of my life. He messaged me back, hey Vanessa, I see you're doing a fitness show, because I was doing bodybuilding. And
Hmm.
can I talk to you? I'm gonna call you something about like, I'm gonna call you next week or something on Friday. And I was just like, okay. I'm like, bro, what are you even talking about? And then I went ahead and went to Louisiana to do a clinical rotation. That's something we do for PT school. And Friday hit, didn't call me. So of course I was like, you see, this is what I'm talking about. This is why I don't like, this is why I don't even deal with men. This is why I'm supposed to stay single. It's all this stuff I'm talking to myself, right? Again, all up in my head. And didn't realize until that weekend he got into a bad car accident. Didn't even know that's why. Ended up calling me the next week, and it ended up being on my birthday. And he started off the conversation was like, hey, here are my goals. And I was just like, what? What the hell? Like, it was like, hey, how are you? And I'm like, I'm good, how are you? He's like, oh, here are my 5-year goals. It was just, when I tell you, like, left field, like, it wasn't like it like flowed. You have a bridge flow into the chorus. It just went boom. Here's my 5-year goals. And I was just like, oh, okay. And he was like, what are your goals? And I was just like, oh. And I literally was just, that's how our conversation started. And we talked for like hours, 4 to 6 hours every single day for 2.5 months before we physically met. And I tell you, that was from the jump of like setting the goals, talking about what we wanted in life, not saying with each other. Because remember, I was just like staying single. Remember, I kept saying, and in my head, as he was talking about his goals, I was like, dang, okay, that sounds really good. Sounds really, but we're staying single. Like you was just like, stay single, stay single. Come on now, stay focused. We gotta finish our doctorate. We got a mission. So of course we started dating while I was in PT school, like towards my second end of my second year into my third year. And that's where my grades in the slit, nothing changed. It was just like he like it flowed into like a supportive role. And then for me, same thing. It was just like all the stuff that you want to do, and it was just, I don't know. It was just so weird just to describe how it just like it flowed. And obviously, he wasn't in the same mindset of like, yeah, I'm just dating around. But it was something that he saw that was serious, and I saw it was serious, and I'm like, wow, like like I actually like this guy. Like I was just literally like, this is interesting. And then I met his mom, I met his family, and I was just like, wow, like, and for me, this is another thing, because again, I'm black, but my upbringing and my parents, they're not even from America. So like for me, I've never been um like, I don't know much about Black American culture, and I know that sounds weird for some people, and I've lived in America, I was born in America, but I don't have that much. Like most of my friends growing up were Hispanic, or island. Like I didn't
Sweet.
have, so my mom is from Jamaica, my dad's from England. They
Yo.
met in Miami. Yes, they met in Miami, and I was born in Hialeah, which people call Little Cuba. And I lived in Florida for years until I moved to the state of Georgia. And we moved At that point, I was like 11, but it was just still like that was like my first interactions with like Black Americans. Like I didn't know. Like I'm being quite honest. So of course I was thinking like, wow. And that's when we started talking about confirmation bias and stereotypes and stuff. My upbringing, we can that could be a whole nother topic for another day. It's like there's differences between island people, African, Hispanic. There's still similarities, but also like Americans and Black Americans, African Americans. Like there's a difference as well. And just like it was just very interesting. I'm like, wow, I love our history. Like this is like really cool. Um, and I'm just learning about stuff. The stuff I didn't learn about in school. We learned about like, you know, a little bit of like slavery. We didn't learn about the Black American history. I learned about American history. Another topic for another day. So I think being around my husband or a boyfriend at the time, it was very encouraging to see like, oh my gosh, like he wants to do this. He's gonna get his master's. He's still doing his master's. He's, you know, he's working on top of doing this. Like I was just like, wow, like he can continue to do his goals. I can continue to do my goals, and we can support each other. Like, you know, so it was like very encouraging that it just balanced. Um, and then it got to the point where I was in residency fellowship. When fellowship hit, he couldn't get a job in the same city I was in. So what we did was like, okay, Greensboro is a midway point where we are. So I was like, when you get off of work, try to head to Greensboro. So that's when we would try to do dates in that sense where we were married by then, but we try to do dates as like Wilding Out is gonna do something or bull riding uh event, like something weird. And I knew like I was chugging coffee like nobody's business because I was trying to stay up. But I knew like this is something that is important to make that time. So I was just like, divorce rate is really high at residency and fellowship, no matter what you know, what you're in. Professional sports, that's also high. Um, over 50 something percent. And I'm pretty sure it's higher now. So it's just like that was like the goal is just like what can we do to work on that? So
Mhm. That's a lot because, like you said, divorce rate is high in general, but especially like you said within your industry and in your field, and especially with you being in the NBA at this point, it's like for you to be, you know, on a success after that says a lot about you all's dedication. But seeing how he punched me in the mouth was like my 5 year goals are X, Y, and Z. Like it's not. It's kind of not a
yeah,
surprise now of like the intention that you guys have behind from the jump. Really, it's just like this is my focus. This is my direction. Are you going this direction too? You're not.
really.
Okay, cool.
Yes, that's literally what, yeah, now that I reflect, it's just like, that's exactly what it was. So of course, it hit me upside my head. I'm like, what the hell? Like, this is
Yeah,
weird. But then it was like, wow, like, that's actually what I'm looking for. But we're staying single. Like, literally, I just kept saying, but we're staying single. Like, this sounds really great, but
hmm,
good for him. But we're staying single. Literally, I was just like, and then slowly but surely kept talking more and more. 4 to 6 hours every day. So as soon as I left the hospital, I'm on the phone. Like I am on the phone. Like I have my friend that was at basically she's at LSU, and I'm supposed to be hanging out with her. And I'm like, Abby, I got a phone call. Like I'll be right there. And I'm outside on the phone. It's like the sun's setting, and we still on the phone. So I was just like, we got to know each other, and it was just from the jump, setting that stage, setting the foundation, instead of it being like straight to physical, straight into like, oh, we go on our first date, and then it's like you already know what's going to happen subsequently. But it was like we had to talk on the phone because I wasn't in the state of Georgia for like 2.5 months. So it was just like it was perfect. I could have got catfished, okay? It's true. I could have got catfished, but a lot of my friends, a lot of his friends knew of each other. So we knew it wasn't just a Facebook, oh, look, you have mutual friends. It's like, no, we
yeah.
actually have physical friends. So I think that was like the biggest thing. Of course, it's like in the back of my head, sometimes that could have, like, I thought about it, but I was like, my best friend actually knew and met him. So I was just like, okay, he's a physical person. He does look like his pictures. So I was like, okay, we're good.
Okay. Besides the distance between you guys, what was the biggest challenge you had dating and figuring out the relationship as you guys went along?
So because our upbringing was so different, and I'm from the cities from the country, that was also different. I am coming from a traditional, very religious background. you go to church, you tithe, you pray to the Lord, and you say in Jesus' name like every 7 words. Like it was very like this is what you do. He was on the other end, like he would be challenging, like, why do you believe what you believe? Like, what makes you think this is actually what it is? And I'm glad that my life experiences is what made my relationship real instead of it being like me just reciting scriptures. So I think that's what helps where we did butt heads early on of like having those conversations of politics and religion. But it was just kind of like, ooh, is this gonna like shake us up or whatever? But it was more of like a conversation of a respect of each other's beliefs. But it was good challenge for me to be like, I know I believe what I believe because of what I went through and how he's brought me through it and what I've experienced in between and the peace I've been able to stand upon. And that is what actually made a relationship with the Lord stronger. And the fact of the difference is I was able to start opening my eyes more and not be so like, no, it's done like this. This is what you do. Because again, that's how I was taught. The peanut butter is like right here, and we only use Jif. We don't use this one. And we put this in the fridge. So like that is all of it, like as simple as that, or like I'm putting like certain foods. I'm like, you eat that? And I'm like for example, I didn't grow up eating greens. And when I say greens, like collard greens, like I didn't
Yeah.
grow up with that. I didn't grow up with soul food. So I was like, what? And I was just like, grew up eating island food or, Latino food. Like that's what I grew up on. Like, and just the fact that it opened up his palate, but then for me to try new things and to challenge my upbringing and my thoughts was like the biggest thing. Um, so yeah, I think that it's just like it was more of like, okay, let me expand my comfort zone, as I said earlier. And for him, a lot of it was expanding his comfort zone because it was like exploration, like, oh, this is new, it's different, not wrong, but it's different, but challenging me. And then it eventually, with time, it definitely with time helped me expand my comfort zone as well.
So at this point in, your career and your relationship, how has being in a relationship helped you in your professional life? And how has, something in your professional life kind of crossed over into your personal life and helped you in your relationship?
Okay, ooh, that's a loaded one. Okay. So how is my relationship helps me in my okay, so it goes back to residency fellowship. My husband was the biggest believer in me, even when my parents were like, you doing more school, you don't want to work, like everything was just like, because my parents didn't go to school or they didn't finish, so it was a lot of it was just like, when are you gonna start working, make some money. And so of course I'm at Duke, and we're getting to the point where going up for their fellowship, and I'm at the end of the interviews, and then they're like, "Oh, you didn't get it, but we want you to work for us." And I'm just like, "Okay." And my husband's more of like, this is what you want to do, go for it. But if the very people that telling you they want to hire you doesn't believe in your dreams, then I feel like they're wasting your time. Like he was just like straight just telling me like, yo, did you say you want to work in the NBA? Did they say they believe in you? They don't say they don't believe in you. Move on. And so basically it was just like, yeah, we're gonna move on. And so literally that's literally no, I'm telling you, when my husband and I talking, that's literally what it is. I was like, yeah, like it was just like, yeah, let's do that. And so a fellowship opened up at Wake Forest and I applied, and of course, like the biggest, I won't say the very people at the residency program, but there are a few people in the residency program was like, she said she applied. We're gonna see if she gets in. And I will never forget, we're at this banquet at the end of the residency program. My husband was like, anything she sets her mind to, she gets it. So I'll just let you just watch. And I was just like, oh my gosh. The way that my husband was just like just on it. And of course I'm just looking like, did he really just say that in front of all these people? And I was just like, all righty then. And then yeah, I got into the fellowship. And it was just like, and it's just the fact that my husband was like, I already knew it. He was just like, you said you wanted it, and that's what's gonna happen. Like, you set your mind to it. This is what's gonna. So he's always been like, this is what we're gonna do. And then when multiple teams started interviewing me, and I was MLB was one, and I was like, I don't think I like baseball like that. So sorry for people listening. I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I love shoulder rehab. I love like actual baseball rehab, but like watching the games, it's a little tough. So that happened, and then it was like a football team and then 2 NBA teams. And so when all that happened, then all of a sudden we go into what we call ACC Sports Medicine Conference that happens towards the end of my fellowship. And my top 2 schools, yeah, I'm putting it out there for the university here. Top 2 schools that I always want to work for when I was younger, before I had the NBA goal, was like University of Miami Hurricanes and LSU. My dad played basketball at LSU, University of Miami, because I am from South Florida, Broward County, actually, to be quite exact. And it was like, oh, University of Miami. So, of course, when we get to the conference and Miami offered me an interview, I was like, oh, shoot, this is what I was asking for. And again, my husband wasn't there at the time because I'm at the conference. And in my head, I'm like, but you said you wanted the NBA. So you wanted the NBA. And I just hearing my husband's voice in the back of my head, like, don't rush into it. Just wait. Just wait. And when I tell you, I'm not exaggerating, 30 minutes later in the evening, I get a phone call, or I get a text message. Hey, Vanessa, are you free for a quick phone call in 30 minutes? And I was like, sure. And I'm thinking, like, I don't know what this is about. And I hop in my car because the conference is still going on. These are like vendors everywhere trying to show you the latest laser machine and ultrasound and all this stuff, Sam Sport. I'm like going into my car, and the person on the line is the company I work for now, was like, hey, I want to offer you a job. And I was like, wait, what? And I was just like, oh, I was literally on the phone like, oh, like this. And literally, if I told Miami yes, like, what was I going to do? I would have to go backtrack, or I would have been like, oh, I already took this job, this college job. And again, there's nothing wrong with college, but it's like, you said what you wanted, you put it out and said it out loud. Everything's been towards it. You had interviews with actual NBA teams, and you were about to settle for something that you can have, in the future, but you said this was your goal. So the fact that all that happened, it was just like full circle of like my husband continuing to tell me, this is what you said, is what you wanted. And that tenacity is something that he has helped me, because I've always had that. But when you get into settings where you get discouraged, you start listening to your surroundings, you need someone in your corner who's going to remind you of like, nah, this is what you said. So whether that's weight loss or whatever, you're going for that Cinnabon, and you're like, hey, you said you wanted to lose some weight. You need, like, that's my husband. He is someone, even when I was going for fitness shows, and again through 2020 and 2021, and like we go out to eat and he'll get the dessert. And I'm like, oh, can I try some? You said, like, that's why you need somebody like that, a person to keep you accountable. And that's why it's like, he is like, I am so grateful for him, because for some people, it doesn't mean it has to be your spouse, isn't whatever, but it's like, you need to have a relationship with somebody, whether it's your friend or whatever it is, that's going to be accountable. And it's going to say, hey, I'll remind you of your goals. I want to tell you, this is what you said. So I think that's like the biggest thing. And then fast forward to now, the college setting with residency and fellowship already helped me set the stage for the professional setting, because you're not spending that much time with your spouse. So that's where it got a little, their hindrance in that standpoint, because you need to spend time. So that's where I talk to a lot of students now, those who they see what I do. Oh my gosh, I want to work in the professional setting. I want to do what you're doing. And it's like, I'm so excited for your excitement, but I just want to let you know, it's not all what you see on Instagram. Those are my highlights, like I'm not going to be showing you like, oh, my husband is going to bed at 10:30 because he has to get it really early in the morning. Our game just hit the third quarter. I was too busy to talk to him before the game because I was doing treatments, and he was seeing clients right before then. So then I didn't get a chance to talk to him. So we're communicating through text right now. I'm not gonna be able to FaceTime him because he's obviously sleeping. Because guess what? I'm in LA. He could be he's 3 hours in the other direction. Like, it could be Eastern time. He's probably, or whatever. That's the type of stuff that people don't talk about, that I try to bring up. You can't, that's something that's not understanding. It's something we signed up for. We already know it. So same thing when I was in residency fellowship, and it's just like, I'm tired, but it's like, hey, we want to go to this movie, and I'm like, yo, I'm about to fall asleep in this movie, and I ain't falling asleep. I'm sorry. Especially, I won't say the name of the movie. I almost did it. Especially like if it's something he likes to watch, and I maybe I'm not like interested in that movie. I have fallen asleep, and I'm a very like it's hard for me to sleep, but in movies. But something like if you're just that tired, residency fellowship, you were working crazy hours. You're working more hours than you are as a staff member, and you're making less money. So then, in that sense, thinking about of the finances, I'm not able to contribute. So when it came to residency fellowship, wasn't able to contribute the amount, that I wanted to, or that I felt like I should cash in on. Because my husband, again, worked all these hours to get me through these courses, to get all these certifications, to make me competitive, to then even be considered for a residency, for a fellowship, and get in the residency and make history that way as being the first Black person for their program. You're like, oh, great. Go through all the stuff that you go through, interesting stuff and topics. So you're already stressed at work. You're trying not to bring it home, and then you're not making enough money, and you're already tired on top of all the other stuff that comes at work. Again, only Black person. There was another Black male in the clinic, and all the other stuff that goes along, the dynamics of that. Then you go through fellowship because you're like, dang, that wasn't enough to get me in the NBA. Because again, there's no one else that looks like me. She was an athletic trainer, and she came in that year. She came in the year that I was starting my G League. So it's again, there was not another Black female in general. So she was, athletic trainer. But through the fellowship, you're still not making a lot of money. Still working a lot of hours on top of have your own caseload in the training room. You work at the hospital system in like CP3, so Chris Paul's basketball academy. So you're working there as well, getting those hours. You're meeting all these famous people that come in, but you still ain't getting paid. And then it's like, okay, bills still have to get done. He's still working extra hours again to help make the need for where I'm lacking in finances. Because again, I have this goal that we are like focused on, bullseye, focused on. It's very easy for then like your tiredness, all this stuff like, yo, I was doing very well before you had these goals. Or I was like, yo, I was doing very well before I got into residency and fellowship, to get you towards your goals that it's not even guaranteed. There could have been a lot of moments like that. Then the NBA calls, and guess what? The job they offer is what they call G League, the minor league, because guess what? You have to prove yourself to then make it to the NBA level, but it's still like through the season, you're with the G League, and then as soon as the G League ends, if they like you, if you do well, then they call you up right after. So that's actually what happened. But again, the finances, you're like, oh, I made it, we made it, baby, we made it. And then it's just like, you look at the salary, you're like, oh, okay. This is about the same money I would make in Atlanta in the clinic, like in 2016, and we're 2019. You're like,
Mm,
this is not what I was expecting.
mm,
Well, we made it to our goal, and then that's when it started getting like real. That's when it started getting real, because it was like my husband busts his behind to help me in all this stuff, pay the bills, while I'm making the minimum with all the extra hours of working, because again, residency fellowship, get into the league, and you're just like, this is what everybody was like, hip hip hooray, this is what it was like, really, bro? Like, you know what I mean? How much money these players make? And you making this? So I was like, okay, that's where our marriage also took a hit. And it was because of our finances. So already from the residency fellowship, not making that much money, but it's like, oh, we're so close to our goal, you'll be fine. Then I make it to my goal, and then it's like, oh shoot. I wonder if I can't even afford time wise to get another job to even help with all the work he's been doing. So it was just like a lot of that stuff where it was very like, Lord, I need your help in this sense. Because it's like, it's not because of like, oh, our personality or making the time for each other. We are already establishing what that looks like, what we need to do on that standpoint, that we've worked on it from beforehand. Now it's the finances where it's starting to get rough, and then COVID hit, and then it was like, oh, some people may lose their jobs in the NBA as well. So it wasn't just saying like, oh, because you're in the entertainment industry, like, oh, your job would be safe. There were people left and right getting plucked, like getting dropped. Like, so it was just like, yo, am I going to be here? I'm in Oklahoma. I already don't know about Oklahoma. And I'm like, where do I go? Like, they're not hiring like that. But it's like, of course, you're thinking, I'm a physical therapist in the sports medicine industry. I'm in a need. And people of entertainment, people who are in, you know, like fans, they look to entertainment. People can go back to the Great Depression. They look to entertainment to help them through. So, of course, you're like, if they drop people left and right throughout the NBA, MLB, NFL, I'm like, shoot, I'm low on the totem pole, like, am I next? And I'll never forget when our general manager just gave us assurance, like, hey guys, we're not dropping you guys. And I was like, what? I was just like so grateful. And I was like, thank you, Lord. That's what I needed. And I'm telling you, I was only in the G League for 5 months and I got promoted. I wasn't even in G League for a whole year. And I got promoted. I got a new salary. I'm not saying the salary is anything close to what a player makes, but I think that's across the board. It's not like something I tell students too to understand, or other PTs or athletic trainers, like, you may not actually make. I mean, shoot, I don't even know of anybody who's making like a amount like a player's making. But it's something about it just helped a lot with our finances, and that in itself helped us work on investing. Or when I say investing, not necessarily like investing in things, but it was just like investing in our relationship in the standpoint of, okay, you did all these extra stuff to work on to help me to get classes, and then I collected on some debt. I came in a relationship with debt. Emory was not cheap, and all this other stuff that you could add up. That I was like, also didn't have financial literacy. So you pile all that stuff up into the equation, and it's like, ooh, we got some work to do. And it's like, okay, when we get this salary, we're not going to spend it on what you think, like, oh, I want a new car. And what did it? To this day, I have the same car I went to school in. Same car. And it's just like, but at the end of the day, like, our credit score is up, like our finances are good, and good meaning like we can help like our family, like like other family members that need something, that were there for us when we were down. So that's that's important. It was just like that long road, that longevity, and being focused on the goal. So again, I could have settled and say, oh, Miami, oh shoot, that was the school I said I wanted to work for. Could have settled, bypassed this opportunity to work in the NBA. Marriage, when it got rough with residency fellowship and finances weren't looking good, but he was like, oh, we're almost there. We got to the goal. Got to the goal, working the NBA, and it's just like, yo, look at this salary. I can't do this. We could have literally said, I can't do this. He could have said, I can't do this. Like, I didn't sign up for this. Like, I did all this extra work and all these extra hours to make the income, so then that you would make the income, to then get us to that where we're financially stable, and you making this, and you could work in the clinic and make more. That's where it was just like that longevity, seeing the long haul was so important, that I actually thank my husband, and even am glad as a couple, we were just like, okay, stick it through. And something we just praying about, like, Lord, open the door. Like, I know you didn't bring me here just for me to be making this. And it's like, some people are like, oh, that's so shallow to say that. No, it's real. Because it's like, we got bills to pay, we got stuff we got to do. And I shouldn't be looking from paycheck to paycheck and wondering, oh, okay, finances, da 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 da, or groceries, this and this and this. No, it should be something like, I can focus on my job and work on my relationship. So at the end of the day, it all worked out, but I had to be patient, and that's something that you could get discouraged along the way.
All right. Okay. Another timeout. Okay. Look, if you got to this point, you have to be enjoying the episode. Like, you have to. At this point in the episode, you're enjoying it. So help me help you. Just, if you're on Apple right now and you're on your phone, okay, just take your phone, press the subscribe button. It's right there. Just do that with me. Even if on your laptop, take your mouse, boom, click over, boom, do your thing. Now you subscribe. Now you linked in, because you don't want to miss the next great episode that I have. But doing stuff like this helps the episode grow, makes the show grow, and the podcast grow, so I can keep getting great guests and keep doing great interviews. So if you listen on Apple or Spotify, take a second, look at your phone, press the follow button, okay? And share with a friend or two. because you'll find a value in this. You want to have this conversation with your friends so they can have the same value. Now the whole basketball community can grow. All right. Thanks for listening so far. I'm gonna get out your way. Let's get back to the episode. Appreciate you.
Oof, that was a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. I ain't gonna lie, it was a lot because we almost didn't make it, and we're now we are 6 years in, so I'm very grateful.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I do want to know your thoughts on this standpoint because I've been really bouncing on this back and forth. Um, like I said before, we're kind of similar fears. We kind of touched on it last episode too. So I see a lot of guys in entrepreneurship, and most of them are married from that I follow, and they say how you should get in a relationship, and because it helps out a lot with you going after your goals and everything. Then you see another group that says like, nah, stay single, stay focused on you because that could be a big distraction and so on and so forth. And I've been battling back and forth between that for probably since I really started trying to do my business thing. And I think I have an answer. I'm not sure yet, but what are your thoughts around that? So like with if a young lady came to you, said, hey Vanessa, I want to do a similar path of what you do. I want to be, PT, AT, whatever, and I want to work, Power Five school or pro level. But I got guys in my DM hitting me up, and I think this guy over here kind of cute. So should I kind of focus on me and focus on my career, or should I kind of date and go along the lines too? What would your advice be to them?
That is a very common question though. That happens a lot in my DMs as well. Not saying guys in my DMs, but it'd be guys asking about like actually do I pursue my relationship or my career? And I do have girls that say the same thing. Hey, like I want to be married, I don't want to be single. So I think that's where it gets really interesting. So understanding there it's going to be different for that person because some people are more of like, oh, by the age of 35, like shoot, I shouldn't be single, and some people are fixated like, no, I want to get these things in my career because guys will always be there. So it depends on your viewpoint in that sense. And it also to the biggest thing I'll say, like with the guy I chose slash he chose me and it was mutual, we never wanted it to be we held each other back from any of our life goals. So that is the biggest thing I feel like if you're gonna be with somebody or not be with someone, if you're on the team, like be single, work on your career, do your stuff. Or there's some people like, no, be with somebody. I am more of I don't want to say loner. I'm very like a social person, but I'm cool with going against the grain, doing my own thing. I don't need any friends like that. And it's not saying I don't want friends or I'm too good for friends. It's more of like, if you're going to hold me back, I am so cool with cutting it off. And that's how it was with relationships. But I then get that in that standpoint where if you are male or female and you want to be successful, whatever it is, if that's a podcast, if that's social media, if that is, being in the NBA, MLB, or being in school, finishing school, I say if someone comes along your way, acknowledge what that is. Like know where you are, like that you're stable in your life. And I mean emotionally stable, and obviously financially stable is gonna be a whole nother topic for another day. Because I wasn't financially stable, but it was like I had an idea of like I'm not gonna go into debt for someone, even though my husband kind of did for me. But it was more of like he saw that investment, but it was like he's gonna continue on his goals. He's not gonna he wasn't gonna let me stop his goals. And you have to get to the point where then that person you meet or date, or if you want to date around or whatever it is, or that person you want to be with, they cannot stop your goals. You cannot let that happen. So that's like where the biggest point is, that you have to make that decision for yourself. Is how somebody like to put, you want to work like your MRS degree or work in your career. And I'm not saying you can't do both, because obviously I'm married and that happened along the way. But I had to pray and let God lead me and shut off relationships that needed to not take place. Because I didn't want to get distracted. Because I think that's a lot of times where I'm finding people where it's like they met that guy, they met that woman, and they're like, wow, I really like this person. But I now found an opportunity and it's in Arizona, but I live in Atlanta. And it's like, oh my gosh, like he lives in Atlanta. We could live together. We could get married, but then I'm gonna move away. That's when you have to make the decision. That's something that it's, if that person loves you, And if you love that person, it's serious, or even if it's early on, you have to be willing to take that chance. If your goal is big enough that it scares you, you're like, I don't want to 10, 20 years down the road think, what if I took that chance on that career or that opportunity because I was trying to stick around for a person that if he believed in me, he could either wait or we be long distance. And if it makes it, it makes it, or he can come visit me, or maybe his job allows him to move out there. Whatever the case is, you have to be willing to take that chance. And if your chance is like, no, I'm not willing to take that chance on my career, but I'm willing to take a chance on love and actually stay with that person. And you have to be willing to live with years down years down the road of like, okay, I missed the opportunity. Could it have been something? I don't know. Could I have been into the NFL like I wanted to? I don't know. And that's something that whatever you choose, you have to live with that because there are a lot of successful women that are single and some of them are not single by choice, but because they focus so much on their career, it's like the guy will come. And that is so true. The guy still will come. It may be later down the line. It's just at that timing. That's something I had to believe in my heart because I was like, oh, at 23, I'm gonna get married. 23 came and I said, oh shucks. Nope. Well, I'm gonna just say, and then I was on that whole single track, like stay single, don't focus on anybody. And I think that's because I was so focused on like stay single, that I was just so in tune with like how I need to improve on myself because I let God improve on me. The right person came along in the right timing because remember, that same person came to me 2 years prior, talking about I'm dating around. And I was like, oh no, 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 that's trouble. That is trouble. And I could have like entertained it 2 years prior, and I could have gotten sidetracked. And I think that's what that happens to people when it's like if you just wait, be patient, continue to work on that, work on yourself, let God continue to work on. Because that's stuff that I like. I was like, oh, I could work on that. I could work on my patience. I could work on this. That timing worked out perfectly. So when that same person rolled around 2 years later, and of course I was thinking like, why does he want to talk to me for about what? What do you want to talk about? What do you want to talk about? And it was just like, okay, we'll talk and see what you want to talk about on this phone call. And they're like, okay. And literally it flowed into a relationship to then obviously a marriage. But because I just let life life just let it happen. Because I like to plan. I'm like, ooh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. But I just let life, and that's the hardest thing. Where it's like, if it happens naturally, it happens, and not be so fixed on like I gotta find somebody. And I know it's easier said than done because I'm married. But it's like if we get too closed off, we will shut off people in our life. But if we're too open, we can get sidetracked. So it's just asking the Lord to give you discernment in who you interact with, who you're around, who you spend your time with, who you need to limit your time with, who is in your life for a season. Like all that stuff happens obviously with time. It starts to unveil itself. But if you are continuing to work on yourself, letting the Lord continue to work on you, use you, you will still be on the path, and someone will meet you along that path, and you're going this way instead of it being this, and then you guys diverge. So that is my long-winded answer of that question.
Nah, that was a really good answer. You mentioned finances, and I think that is a very critical point, or not critical point, a critical pillar, you could say, in every relationship. Um, I think for being a guy, my standpoint on that is a little bit different because I'm a provider. So like if I'm with you, I'm gonna take care of you. And if I'm in a position where I don't have the money to take care of you, it hurts me to not be able to make sure you're good. And so it's like when it comes to dating, it's like, nah, let's not do that. But it could be a situation like you're talking about where she's good or she can like be down for you in the short term to where you are able to like pick yourself up on that. And so that is kind of a challenge that I do have for me personally. And I think about sometimes what if I'm just in my head messing that up to where I'm not even open the opportunity up because I automatically see and know when it could be more than that. So how did you guys kind of figure out not the downfall of like the finances, but how'd you like
Mm-hmm.
maneuver through finances as situations came up?
Yeah, so like fast forward through, as we said, like I wasn't really producing the finances like I wanted to when I started residency and fellowship. And so then he picked up the slack, and the slack meaning my slack, not his slack. So he started working extra hours. And then, as you can understand, you work more hours, you get in less rest. Like there's not much of a reward because guess what? We don't see the outcome and then go to a job. Then I get the MBA job, does not get to the amount we were expecting at first. And then we wait 5 months later, boom, we get the raise or the promotion. You're like, oh wow, this is amazing. But I knew as we were talking from the very beginning as our goals, I knew he talked to his other friends, and the biggest thing was like, yeah, don't let your woman make more money than you. When they make more money than you, they all they're gonna do is say, this is my money, and I make the rules, and I can do whatever I want with my money. Da, da, da. And I'll never forget when we started dating. He was just like, I don't care how much money you make, like we're gonna make sure we're accountable to each other, and it's not about your money, my money, da da da. And to this day, that's actually how we are. So when I got that raise or that promotion, I obviously initially made way more money than he did. He supported me throughout the whole way, but it like if I was an ugly person, I could have been like, okay, so thank you for your time. Let me go ahead and do this and this. Like I can get my nails in every week. I get my hair done. I can do this. Oh, and I pay the bills. Like, so shoot, guess I don't need you. Like I could have been like that. And I heard stories of people like that, but it was like the fact of like we had each other down from the foundation that it's like when this shift happened, it's like now we're like, ooh, now game plan. How can we start paying off this debt that I mostly created? And how can we be financially free and or work towards it? So then we started thinking about okay, like YouTube and different books and reading, and like he was getting diving into that, and then it got to the point where it was like he wanted that for me, and I had to get to that point where it was like I have to make time to learn because my parental upbringing wasn't great in the financial department, and so a lot of it was like unlearning some stuff and then reprogramming about like okay, just because you have some money in your pocket doesn't mean you have to spend it on all or a vacation, because I was that very person. I'm going to say this about myself, oh my gosh, I was that very person when we were in PT school. I took out more what do you call it? Took out more money for my out of my loan to help pay for my colleagues slash friends to go on a vacation with me, because I was like, oh, like come with me, I'll pay for you. Like I was very like acting like I had all that money, but it was fake money. So then I had to learn like that's not what you do. Because guess what? My dad is like that. Like he literally be like, oh, I'll do whatever it is to get you this. I'll take this, the very money I need for this. I'll have let you have it. So I had to learn that could break a relationship. And I don't mean like my friend's relationship, like your marriage, because you're like, oh, I want to do this for Johnny so he can have an education himself, or I need to do this for my friend because she said she was in need. And it's like communication. We don't have that cushion for you to do that, to be nice. We don't have that. So it's a lot of like learning of that stuff of like what is smart, what's the long term goal now, and work on that. So that was how it helped us throughout, where as we started seeing money come in, not like, oh, I can go get the TV I always wanted. Like it literally was like, okay, this is what you did in the past. I know you from Florida. He'd be like, I know you from Florida, and you gotta get the nice car and deck it out. But we don't need to do that. We need to be smart with it. So a lot of it was amazing that it then allowed him to be the person he wanted to be, was the explorer. So it's like now that it's like my money is now consistent. He's like when he wanted to start a new business, he was able to do that, and that's something that he didn't. That's something he's always wanted to do. He always wanted to be an entrepreneur, always, always, and we couldn't do that. Guess what? Because he was always working extra hours for me to take classes, be certified in this and that and third, to be competitive, to do school, to do residency fellowships, to then get this job and X, Y, and Z. So it's like full circle that I can like now be more supportive in that sense. Obviously, he's making more money than me now, But the fact of like that initial like getting your business off the ground, it's like I want to do this, I want to try that. There was a cushion because I finally was able to create that cushion that he created for me. So for him to try and see, because it's like as being an entrepreneur, like there's gonna be ups and downs, ebbs and flows. But if you don't really have that much of that cushion, you're not gonna be as like um you're not gonna be as excited to say, oh, let me take that chance, let me take that calculated risk. So I think that's where that helps out and balance a lot, because instead of it being like, oh no, that's my money. Like I worked those hours to get that money. Who makes you think you're gonna take that money and try to start a business? Wait, what do you think this is? It
Yeah.
was none of that, because again, from the jump, we already established before we had money of having that same mindset, understanding like paying bills and paying off credit cards and this, that, and the third. So as soon as we started seeing stuff, you're like, okay, now let's talk about savings. Let's talk about this. And it just flowed to not being irrational.
I think the kind of to summarize what you all have been through, it started off with clarity and a lot of intention. Um, and then once you guys saw you were in alignment on that, after that, it's just about communication.
Oh
And I
yeah.
think those three things are kind of what has been the pillars of you all's relationship and what's carried you to where you are now. And like the more I talk to more people, the more I like I'm like low key a sociology. I like the psychology and sociology life, and I just observe different things and think about it stuff all the time. I think those are the three things that can um, really avoid a lot of trouble in relationships. Because if we're both clear and have clear
Hmm.
intentions, like clarity of the vision of where we're going and
Right.
intentions of how to get there, and we both understand this is what she wants, this is what he wants, and we agree on how to get there, all you have to do is communicate for each step moving forward. So it's no mishaps, no missteps. It's nothing to mess up on. Even if we do mess up, oh my bad, I didn't clearly understand what you were saying. So it's like
Hmm.
communication after that is just what the real thing is. So I feel like
Hmm.
that's what you had from, hey, this is my 5 year plan to now year 6 of marriage, and you all's relationship has double, triple, quadrupled over what it was in the beginning. So I think that's
For
kind of what
sure.
you all have dealt with, from then to now.
For sure. Yeah, it's been good, because like in the, end of the day, like if you respect each other's goals, you respect each other's time. In the day when I'm going off to LA and he's still in a different time zone, it's something that we have to understand. What can we do to maximize the time, even if it's on the phone? Like it is what it is. Maximize time. It's like, okay, I can spend an hour doing this, but it's like, okay, we need to call and talk to check in. And if we could physically hear each other's voice instead of texting, let's do that, because the game's about to start. Even if it's a 30-second phone call, unfortunately, that's happened plenty of times where it's like, yo, hey, baby, love you. Hope you're doing well, but I gotta go. Sorry. Or I could be talking and all of a sudden a player needs something that's like, gotta go.
Mm.
Or you guys plan to do date night, you plan to go to dinner, do all this other stuff. You're, there, and then a player needs something, you gotta go. A lot of times the players though are respectful. They know I'm married. They know like, oh, an evening you might want to spend time with your husband, this and the third. Or if they happen to see him on the road or whatever, they know they'll try their best to be respectful of my time, but they'll like to ask ahead of time and be like, hey Vanessa, around this time, can I have treatment or this, and this? And again, that respect, because again, I respect myself, I respect them. They know and the respect is mutual. So it's just like it's beautiful how it works out, and just being flexible in all parties. So it's been great. It's been a balance, a dance.
I really like that for you, man, because I don't say you have like a dream relationship, but I think that at the heart of it, that's what everybody wants in a relationship. Like you want to have the clarity, you want to have the the cohesion to just understand each other, the respect that you have for each other. It's like it's cool what you see the celebrities have. It's like that's whatever, not to knock that, but it's like okay, cool. But at the end of the day, if I can have someone that supports me, believes in me, respects me, we can communicate, I don't see how you can't make it through any situation you have. So I'm happy that you do have that and that you've been able to like sustain and overcome everything you've been dealing with because people have been in the exact same situation that you have and things turn out totally different. So I'm happy
Yeah,
for you
yeah.
to have that.
Thank you. Yeah, I was like, I don't take it lightly. I thank God for my relationship and how it's helped me grow individually and then us together. And the fact of like, yeah, there were some dark moments where we talked about finances and all that stuff and things that technically like when you talk to like students or you talk to people who want to get in this industry that they think, oh yeah, it sounds great, but then it's like, there might be some time, like days, it could be weeks, you may not see your spouse. You may spend more time with the players slash staff more than your spouse or boyfriend, significant other. Like, can you handle that? And also too, if that significant other was like, oh, you're always at work, oh, when are we gonna spend some time? If they're like that, oh, you're probably doing this with this person. You're like, it ain't gonna work out. And I don't mean, it doesn't mean like just work out with that person. It's like you're gonna have to choose what you're trying to do because I'm not trying to say you're with a insecure person, but if you're with a clingy person, I don't know how this is going to work out for you. Or if you're the clingy person, I don't know how it's going to work out for you. If you really need affection daily, words of affirmation daily, spoken by somebody else, I don't know how you're going to make it in professional sports or even college. Like, because again, you're not going to be in there and be like, oh, you're a female. Let me talk to you all softly and nice. And how's your day going? No, it doesn't happen. They may watch their words a little bit more because they may feel like, oh, you may go to HR for like little innuendos, whatever. But a lot of the stuff you hear sometimes the same stuff they tell everybody else. And at the end of the day, like I don't want to be like, oh, let me give you the G-rated version. Because like, no, tell it to me straight because I want to understand where you're coming from. And I don't want you to sugarcoat things. I want you to be respectful, but I don't want you to sugarcoat what you want to say. So I think you have to make sure you are strong enough and also you have to continue to work on yourself that you don't take things personal because you're with around these people every single stinking day, all the time. At 3 a.m., you get off the bus, get off the plane, you're with these people. So people get tired, you get a little frustrated, or you're like, dang, you haven't seen your child, or you haven't seen your spouse, you haven't seen your mom, whatever that is. I missed my niece's birthday party. I missed my friend's wedding. I couldn't be in the bridal party. There's so much stuff, the baby shower that happens, and you have to understand that this is what you chose, this is what you say you want to be great, this is some of the sacrifice you got to do. Like, you have to understand that you may lose some friends, and it's like, were they really my friends if we lost a relationship because I can go to your baby shower, I can go to your bridal shower, I can go to your wedding? Then it's just like, so be it, because at the end of the day, like, I'm gonna keep working on my goals. So
Yeah, I literally just dealt with that like a couple months ago because a guy that's like my big brother, like I don't have too many people I'm that close with outside of my family that I can like guarantee call on and I like know they have good intentions with me. I don't have to second guess anything about them. I don't have too many people like that outside of my family. He's one of them. And he's had relationships here and there. We kind of talked to stuff here and there. And he had his wedding. And I was happy for him. Like, yeah, man, do your thing, man. You don't be there, man. Da 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 da. Then he told me the date it was. And I was like, for real?
ah
Oh man. I was so hurt. And I was like brainstorming for like 3 days straight trying to figure out
ooh,
how can I make it there? But I went out of town for this conference thing, and I'm like, yo, y'all can't like tweak it just a little bit for me, man.
I
Like just push
know,
it, like,
it's
and
the day, yeah.
it
Ooh,
hurt, it hurt so bad. But like, I knew he was cool because we have an understanding. It's like, bro, this is just one day, one moment, bro. We got the whole marriage that you can be here for, and we brothers, like we family. I know you, we good, but I knew he wasn't tripping about it, but I was hurt over it because it's like that's
yeah,
my brother, like that's my
right,
guy, like you only have one wedding, bro, and I missed it. That
right.
bothers me to this day. So like, it's a cost that comes with it, man, and that's my first taste of like really getting into that, and it hurt. I'm like to this moment, I'm still bothered at the fact that I missed
Yeah,
it. But because that's like my brother, he's really like my family. It's no love lost. Like I can hit him up right
that's
now,
awesome.
joke and goof around like it's nothing, man. So
That's awesome.
for that to be the future, a possible future of more of that to come, is kind of like
Hmm.
it's gonna hurt, but it's like, is that a sacrifice I'm willing to have
Right.
more often? It's like,
It just depends too. I mean, it depends because for me, it's all about I'm not trying to do this forever. And I think I said it in the previous podcast. So for me, family is very important. And you probably wouldn't know because it's like, how you miss your niece's birthday? How you miss this? You miss this. Again, I'm not trying to be here for a long time. I'm trying to be here for a good time. I made history, great, but it wasn't history to say, oh, I'm the first black female physical therapist athletic trainer, just to say, let me just ride on that, that'll be like my only thing. It's like, no, what can I do to now trailblaze to make the opportunity a little bit easier for other people? So it's like they don't have to do a residency and a fellowship and a manual fellowship and be a nationally registered EMT, do all these other certifications just to get noticed by a team to then be competitive to interview to then potentially be on the team. Like that's the goal. And the fact that I'm seeing more and more females, all ethnicities, but hearing of their journeys and now hearing of different journeys, it's amazing. And not having to do all this school, that's worth it. And eventually, hopefully very soon, if God's willing, his timing, I'll be able to transition out and have a family and be around my family. That's my goal. Be around my family.
that leads me to my last question I wanted to ask you about is family. Um,
Yes.
what are your thoughts and plans around that whole aspect? Because it's you and your man right now, but do you want to have like little Vanessa's running around, or like what's the plan
Yes.
around
My
that?
goal is to have sons only. God, I'm asking you, I pray, Lord, please. I would love to be a boy's mom. But again, he might be funny. He might give me a girl. It's okay though. I'm okay with a daughter. Pray to God, just one. But we do want to have kids. We do want to have kids, and that's another thing. I mean, one person already made history. I don't want to like shout out her name because if she didn't give me permission, because I just thought about it. She worked in the NBA, traveled the whole entire season, 8 months while she's 8 months pregnant, still traveling. Her team made it to the playoffs. She was still traveling, and I said, "Ooh, we had the baby." At the end of the season, she's doing really well, but she was able to transition to something where she's not traveling as much. I think that's a beautiful thing. So hearing more and more people that's happening. There's also an NFL um scenario as well. This person's they're pregnant with their first child, same thing. I don't know if she came back to the NFL. I just know there are people who are traveling who are pregnant. That is not my goal. My goal is not to be pregnant while I'm traveling. Um, or so far away from family. So that's another thing. That's where it gets a little interesting that I kind of spilled the tea, said it out there. Like, yes, my goal is not to be so far away from family, pregnant. So if God has me to be a little bit closer to family, whatever that is, or the timing of pregnancy, God, Um, again, I just want to be as effective with the time that I have, whether that is pregnant or not pregnant while I'm in the NBA, because I do want to have family and I do want to make sure this is available for other women and other people to come through that look like you and me. So that's basically the goal. Like, yes, we want to have kids. We just have to figure out of the timing.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so important to have more women in these positions of power, or have level of say so, like actual say so, not just like title with no actual authority and power behind it. Because let's say she had that situation and no kind of like help was presented to her, because it's like it's all guys. Like, I don't know about pregnancy. Like, my wife's pregnant. That's the most pregnancy that I know about. So like she could have been in a real messed up situation. And like, well, if you leave in the middle of a playoff run, we can't guarantee a job, or we can't, you know what I mean? Something like that could have
No,
came
that
up.
stuff is so, I'm telling you, that stuff is so true, especially if you ended up pregnant and you're not maybe on the team for at least a year prior to pregnancy. Legally, they actually don't have to honor your
Mhm.
job, which is very interesting because of course you're thinking like, no, I'm pregnant, at least you should be able to. If you weren't on that job for at least a year, they do not have to honor it. And then it gets to the standpoint of, yes, they'll do anything legally to maintain great healthy environment. But at the end of the day, it doesn't mean that they won't create a meeting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and maybe you're a mom already, and you know by 3 I have to pick up my kids from daycare, pick them up from school. So it's like, what do I do? So some of that stuff can happen, and I know it's not just in the sports setting. It's also like in, business setting. It's in multiple. People have so many examples. So it's
Yeah.
just the fact of like, it's awesome to hear of women of having some say so if they are in more authority, or say if it's a guy that's understanding because he has kids and he knows like, oh, my wife would have to pick up my child at this time, so maybe I shouldn't have meetings at this time. Or making it supportive. Like, I know there are a couple teams, including this one, they are supportive of you having kids. And I think that's amazing, and trying to work with you and stuff in that sense. So I think that's where I see the growth and the change in that. And I think that's awesome. But I hope, my prayer is not for women who actually want to have kids, they have to keep prolonging it because they think they'll get a promotion or they want a higher position, and they know if they have a kid or if they're pregnant, it may dampen their chances. We don't have the answers to that. We don't even know. We're never going to have the actual truth about it, but I can only speak of people who are reflecting, of those who waited and had their kid later and ended up saying, I wanted to have more kids, but I ended up waiting at least 10 more years because of all the things that, yeah, oh, yeah, of all the things of the promotion and all the stuff. I wanted to make sure I was as competitive as possible. Was it pregnant? And then they end up having one child, but they wanted to have more. And I think that's where, as a female, it does get, it is what it is. Like, I haven't seen that change yet. And whether that's our own assumptions or biases of thinking, or there's actual facts, and sometimes it's hard to prove, but I can't imagine someone being more competitive of a female saying, oh, I'm going to do everything I can, do whatever be at every meeting, do this and this, and wait to have kids later. And I think sometimes that's where it can get, that's where it gets harder. I know people talking about relationships or be single, work on the career. It's also like now the female of like, I want to have a child, but I want to be successful in my career. And sometimes that career, depending on what it is, can be like, ooh, do I pause my career? But then it's like, I can lose my momentum and gaining for this promotion or gaining for this notoriety or anything of that sense. And am I willing to do that or I'm not? And I know for me, get one body. Yes, you can do other means of how you want to have kids later, or if you only want to have one child, or say people who don't want to have kids, that's a whole another ballgame. Or people who cannot have kids, so that's another thing. But I just know for me, you can only answer that question for yourself of like your career, just like with relationships and career. Do I want to be in a relationship with somebody? Do I want to entertain a relationship? Or is it going to sidetrack me? Or it's like, I want to have kids, but it can sidetrack my career, or I cannot have kids or wait on kids, but I could maybe have one child. And I think I'm at that point where it's like, I think I'm okay, like having kids, and I have to like take a step back. Like, it's okay. Because at the end of the day, like I want to have as many kids I was supposed to have. Not because in my opinion, for me, only speaking for me, ladies, not because I was selfish on like, oh, I want to accomplish this, this, and this. So I don't even want to do that right now, X, Y, and Z. I'd rather just it be the timing of that. It just flows, just like we talk about relationship. Let it just flow, and the timing it needs to be, and just let life. Just let it happen.
I think it'll work out for you because, like you just said,
Thank you.
it happened for your relationship, and without getting too deep, we have a way that things happen for us in life, and so some people make big steps. Like I know I realize for me, I make a lot of little steps. I don't make big splashy moves. Part of that's just my personality. I'm low key introvert, loner, whatever, and that's just the way things work for me. And so like for you, things flow for you. So he shows you relationship just flows. So I feel like that's how things kind of happen for you. Not to say it's gonna start and end with the easy flow, because you went issue, challenge happened, single, 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 single. But then things flowed after that. It's not to say everything's gonna be flowing easy, but like that's the way things will happen. Like with pregnancy, like you go through a lot of issues, dealing with this, speaks well, and all the issues that come with
And
pregnancy.
I speak, everything goes well. Lord.
But then, the water breaks and the water flows. So then after that,
Right, right.
the incident happens. And so that's kind of how things can. I did go deep there. I didn't try to, but
No,
uh,
you good, you good.
okay, cool, cool. But that's kind of how things can or kind of would happen for you, at least from my perspective. So um, yeah, tell Sam to hit me up. I got a couple ideas for how to deal with the women. Just give me like some tickets one day. Just that's all you gotta do, man. Like I don't even need a check, bro. Just give me some tickets to a couple games, and
Some
we'll be
tickets
good.
to a couple games. Let us know when you head on over here. We'll figure it out. You just let us know.
Yeah, man, we can set up a call and just, figure out how to help the women out, and I can help the organization out. I got a lot of ideas for different things. I have a lot of
That's
NBA
awesome.
ideas. Like we had a couple old episodes, and the NBA should listen to us, so I can pitch those ideas too.
Hey,
Just like
nah.
a meeting, you feel me? Like some good
There's a
ideas.
lot. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we've taken from like I'm not in that department, but like on when we reflect on like, oh yeah, we had this community service, we had this event, someone brought this idea up, or someone brought this to our attention, and we were able to implement it or execute it. So hey, stuff has happened.
I'm like so serious. I have some
So
ideas that are really good.
yeah,
I'm like NBA should like cut me a check for how good these ideas. I'm not even joking. Like I'm dead serious. Like,
I don't know if these people got paid though with their ideas, but you
oh
never
no, no,
know.
contract is I have to get some level of
You have to
payment.
get
They
some.
even have
Oh,
to
okay,
be.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I'm not in those part of the conversations. So we'll see. I'm not really sure, but hey, you never know what every what it evolves to. You
yeah.
never know.
Just get Adam on the phone. We'll figure it out. That's how
Oh, okay.
I can handle that conversation. Um,
I'll keep that in mind once I get his phone number. I'll keep that in mind.
Connection to get the phone number. So
I
after
have the
that,
connections to get this. Oh, wow.
yeah,
Oh
it's like a
my.
couple steps you have to get. It's
A
like
couple
somewhere.
steps, yeah. Well, there's a
Just a
couple
few.
steps, all right. Yeah. Just a couple steps.
Maybe 50, 60. Not a lot. Not a whole lot. But
They'd be like, who is this? How did you get my number?
Vanessa, who?
Exactly. Who's this?
No, this was. I think it was better than what I expected. To be honest with you.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a good one. Anything else you want to get off your chest before we get out of here?
No, this was great. I think the questions were what a lot of people have already asked or wanted to get the answers of from someone who's already in the league or who wants to be in the league or wants to be successful in their career, whatever that is. So I think this was really good. And again, it's just from my perspective. So
Yeah,
it was very, yeah, I think it was smooth. It was went deeper in
definitely.
some areas, and it's just like, oh, I thought about that. I know there's listeners who be like, oh, I want to know that too, or like, no one's ever talked about that. So that's what I'm excited about for this podcast,
That's my goal, man. Like to have the conversations people aren't having, and this is one of them that
for
I'm
sure.
excited to bring to you guys. So, um, y'all hit me up, man. I'm definitely interested to have more conversations because, like, honestly, one thing I know I don't want to share this publicly, but I don't care. It's me. One thing I noticed with podcasting is that like players interview other players and some coaches. You have coaches interview other coaches and trainers interview other trainers. But like I'm a trainer interviewing all of you guys. Like I don't care if you're in basketball. I want to talk to you. I honestly want to get a referee on here. Like I don't know anybody to talk to referee. I want to talk to a referee
Oh,
and we can have this conversation because
that's
I
a
have no
good
clue.
one.
So
That's
that's
a
what
good one.
see. I be thinking, man.
Yeah,
Thinking.
that ain't gonna lie. That's a good one. I don't know of any people talking to refs like that. Yeah, that's a good one. That'd be a great idea.
See, I need to figure out how can I get a referee on here. I want to get like Steve Javy or somebody on here. Like I want to get one of the
I'm
brothers on
pretty
here.
sure I mean, I'm pretty sure there would be a way.
I
Even if
know
it's
it's a
something like you simple as you go into a game and you happen to like, because some of them will come out like you never know. Even if it's like a card or something, you can slip through, or it's a game I'm working like, hey, we have somebody who wants to put you on their podcast. Are you interested? Just let's talk about it later. Let's talk about it later. Because you'd be surprised, like we will talk with reps, even if it's just to say hi or whatever. Like you never know. So
Hmm.
that would be great. That would be an interesting perspective. That would be a really good one. And they make a lot of money. They make more money than they definitely make more money than me. But I know they make more money than a lot of people, even in the medical space. So ooh, that would be very interesting podcast. I would look forward to hearing that one.
I'm gonna let you know when I get that first one on
Yeah,
because
no,
it's gonna be
yeah,
nice.
that'll be good. Keep me updated.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I hit you up, but we gotta get out of here, man. We've been talking too much.
Yeah, it was
We kind of
good.
went
It
over.
was a good podcast.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, great
All right.
podcast. Great podcast.
Yeah, pat yourself on the back for that one because it's all right.
It was definitely mutual because you asked the right questions. It was a great conversation as well. It was great.
I do a little bit of stuff here and there. You feel me? But no, this was a good one. I really enjoyed it. I think that um, because so many people don't know or don't understand this point of view, let alone like the PTAT side, but like the point of view of someone dealing with this situation of I'm in this great space, but I'm in such a small um, uh, minority within this space, and people don't
Right.
we get overlooked, and you overlook the fact that I'm a minority within a minority within a
Mm-hmm.
minority of this space. The
Mm-hmm.
viewpoint of that, the viewpoint of relationships within this space, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
all these things aren't talked about, but we figure out a way to get this in here. So I think that's what makes this
Yes,
so special. Um, so I feel like this is going to be a really good one, and I appreciate you taking time out to share your perspective on this and get the game because it's needed. I don't think enough
for
people hear
sure.
this. So
Thank you. No, it
yeah,
was great. Thank you so much. This was definitely a really good one. I don't know of any other podcasts, and again, not saying I know all of them, but I don't know of any other podcasts talking about this. Being a doe minority, and then within organizations, multiple professional sports where you work with a lot of minorities that look like you, but people higher up are not minorities, but they're the ones making the rules and standards and the relationships amongst that and how to assert yourself, but be an advocate for the players and still respect yourself and be respected and to make a name for yourself and create a legacy, all that stuff. Yeah.
so this is a good one. We're gonna get out of here, but thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. Follow me on all social media at BeBall Jones. It's BeBall Jones. Follow Miss Vanessa Brooks, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. I got them all.
Vanessa DPT ATC for Instagram, or you just Vanessa Brooks for LinkedIn. Same thing for Twitter, Vanessa DPT ATC.
Yeah, follow her, show her some love. Tell her how dope she was again. Like she was dope one time. She came back. She went back to back. You feel me? Everybody can
Okay,
get a two
okay,
piece. Everybody can get two runs, but she got two of them. So
nice.
so hopefully she gets one of them in a professional career too. She already got a relationship ring. Now she's finna get a professional. See how I did your
Oh,
boy
okay,
nice, man.
okay,
Your boy is nice, man.
okay.
That's off the
I ain't
top
gonna
too.
lie, we look really good. So I'm excited, and I'm a huge NBA fan. So either way, I'm very excited about this season. It's gonna be like a really cool season.
I'm super
But
excited.
again, I'm gonna try to keep it all in because again, we're not allowed to celebrate during the game, so just keep it in, keep it in. So it's been
And
good.
I'll be watching games just to watch you. I'm gonna forget about everybody else
Oh,
in my
there's
brother.
so many people that do that, deliberately do that. Be like, why you look so mean? And it's like, I'm not allowed to celebrate. Like, or all of a sudden I'll start looking for things in my bag because I'm trying to like, oh my gosh, like I'm like shouting like, oh, that was great. But I'm not allowed to express. But it's okay.
Yeah, it's all good because you can do it on this podcast and nobody can say anything about it. So, it
Nice.
is. But
Oh
that's it.
man.
I don't have anything else to say. Oh, you guys need to watch my Hoop Gems episodes because that's pretty dope. I just give like within 5 minutes to give you guys like a lot of mental game, like a just quick little how tos, a little bit inspiration, motivation along with it too. So you guys watch that. It comes out on Fridays. It's pretty good if I do say so myself. I'm not biased when I say that. because I know how dope I am. So that's not being biased. I'm just being objective. Take that how you will. So, but that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. Uh, that's all. Thank you, Miss Vanessa, again. Really appreciate it. Um, see you guys next week.
Thank you.